The first day at a new school is never easy, and for Maya, it was more than just walking into a classroom full of strangers. She was the new black girl in town, quiet but confident, and carrying herself with a strength most people couldn't see at first glance. But one person noticed her right away: the school bully. He had a reputation for making others miserable, and the moment he spotted Maya, he saw her as his next target. At first, it started with little comments in the hallway, whispers meant to embarrass her. Other students watched, some laughing nervously, others staying silent. But Maya didn't flinch. She kept her head high, and that only made the bully push harder. He thought he could break her spirit in front of everyone, proving once again that he ruled the halls. What he didn't know was that Maya wasn't like the others he had picked on. She had faced far bigger challenges before stepping into that school. Behind her calm eyes was a quiet fire, and the bully was about to learn the hard way that messing with her was his biggest mistake. Within minutes, the balance of power would shift, and the same boy who tried to humiliate her would be the one begging for mercy. Maya had only moved to this town a week ago. Her mother had taken a new job, and though Maya didn't say it out loud, she secretly hoped this school would give her a fresh start. She wasn't looking for attention or trouble, she just wanted to fit in, make a few friends, and focus on her studies. But it seemed like fate had other plans the moment she crossed paths with Tyler, the boy everyone whispered about. He wasn't the biggest in size, but his loud mouth and sharp tongue gave him all the power he needed. People followed his lead because they were afraid of being his next victim. As Maya walked through the cafeteria, she could feel the stares. Tyler had already started spreading jokes about her, calling her names, testing to see if she'd react. She didn't. That silence made him restless. To him, every new kid had to earn their place, and he thought humiliation was the way to do it. What Tyler didn't know was that Maya had lived in bigger cities where kids like him didn't scare her. She'd learned how to stand her ground long before this moment. And as the day went on, the tension between them grew. Everyone sensed a storm was coming, but no one could guess just how quickly it would turn. By the second week, Maya had already become the center of whispers. Some students admired the way she carried herself, while others worried that Tyler's constant taunts would only get worse. He had a way of dragging people into his games, daring his friends to laugh at his insults, daring teachers to look the other way. To Tyler, Maya's calmness was a challenge he couldn't ignore. Every time she refused to react, it was as if she was telling him she wasn't afraid, and that cut deeper than any words could. But not everyone agreed with Tyler. A few classmates, quietly impressed with Maya, started watching her more closely. One girl, Sarah, wanted to step in, but fear of becoming the next target kept her frozen. Another student, James, had been on the receiving end of Tyler's cruelty before, and he recognized the same trap being set again. For him, Maya represented a strength he wished he had shown when it was his turn. Tyler, however, was planning something bigger. Small remarks weren't enough anymore. He wanted to embarrass Maya in front of the whole school. His friends whispered about a stunt he was organizing at lunch, something that would force her to react. The cafeteria became a stage of uneasy silence, everyone waiting, sensing the moment was building toward something none of them would forget. The day of Tyler's plan arrived, and the energy in the cafeteria felt different from the start. Students whispered in corners, some excited, others uneasy, all waiting to see what would happen. Maya walked in with her tray, steady as ever, her eyes scanning the room without a hint of fear. Tyler was already there, surrounded by his usual group, smirking as if he held all the power. His friends leaned in, nudging him, reminding him this was his moment to finally break the new black girl who had dared to stand tall against him. Maya chose a seat near the back, away from the spotlight, but Tyler wouldn't allow her peace. He stood, his voice rising just enough to silence the chatter around him. Every word was aimed to cut, to draw laughter, to make her fold. But Maya didn't flinch. Her calm gaze only seemed to unsettle him further. The more he tried, the more it felt like the crowd was waiting for something bigger, something explosive. Sarah clutched her lunch tray tightly, torn between speaking up and staying invisible. James, seated close by, leaned forward, heart pounding, knowing Tyler was about to cross a line he couldn't take back. The air grew thick with expectation. Every second felt stretched thin, every eye locked on Maya, waiting for the moment when everything would erupt. Just when everyone thought Tyler would make his final move, the unexpected happened. A teacher stepped into the cafeteria, but instead of noticing the rising tension, she was pulled aside by another student, giving Tyler the window he needed. With a grin, he reached for Maya's tray, ready to turn her quiet lunch into a spectacle. The crowd leaned in, bracing for the humiliation. But before his hand could touch it, Maya calmly placed her palm over the tray and looked him straight in the eyes. The silence that followed was louder than any shout. Tyler froze for a split second, caught off guard by the intensity in her stare. That hesitation gave the room a different kind of energy, one that no one expected. Suddenly, another voice cut through the air. It was James. He stood up, shaky but determined, telling Tyler to stop. Gasps rippled across the cafeteria. No one ever challenged him, not openly, and certainly not someone who had once been his victim. Tyler's smirk faltered, but he wasn't about to back down. Now, it wasn't just about Maya, it was about control, reputation, and the image he had built for years. With the crowd watching closely, the tension snapped tighter. Two people had now stood against him, and that changed everything. The stakes weren't just high anymore, they were personal, and the showdown was inevitable. Tyler's smirk returned as he turned to James, his voice dripping with mockery. "You think you can stop me?" he sneered, stepping closer. The cafeteria was dead silent, all eyes darting between the three of them. James stood his ground, but his fists were clenched, and his voice shook. Just when it seemed Tyler would push him aside, Maya rose from her seat. She didn't shout or threaten, she simply stood tall, her calm presence commanding more attention than Tyler's noise ever could. "You've done enough," she said firmly, her voice steady. The words cut through the air like a blade. Something in her tone made Tyler hesitate, his bravado cracking under the weight of a courage he didn't understand. The crowd, usually quick to laugh at his antics, didn't move. No one cheered him on. For the first time, he was alone. Then came the twist no one expected. Sarah, who had been silent for so long, stepped forward. Her voice trembled, but she spoke loud enough for all to hear. "She's right, Tyler. We're tired of this." One by one, other students nodded, their silence turning into a quiet wave of support. Tyler's power slipped from him in an instant, replaced with a desperation he couldn't hide. And in that moment, the boy who had built his reputation on fear wasn't feared anymore. Instead, he stood surrounded, his control shattered, while Maya simply looked at him, calm, unshaken, and stronger than anyone imagined. The bully had been defeated, not by force, but by unity. Tyler stood frozen, his usual smirk gone as the reality settled in, he wasn't the leader anymore. The silence of the cafeteria turned into murmurs, but this time they weren't in his favor. No one laughed, no one cheered. For the first time, he felt the sting of being on the outside. Without a word, he dropped his head and walked away, leaving behind the power he once held over everyone. Maya sat down again, her calm expression unchanged, though inside she felt a quiet relief. She hadn't come to the school to fight battles, but standing tall had reminded everyone of something important, that courage isn't about shouting the loudest, it's about refusing to bend when it matters most. James gave her a small nod, grateful that her strength had given him the push he needed. Sarah, too, felt lighter, no longer trapped in silence. Over the next few days, the hallways of the school felt different. Students walked with a little more confidence, knowing they didn't have to let fear control them. Tyler, humbled, kept to himself, and though no one celebrated his downfall, everyone knew the balance had shifted. Maya hadn't just stood up for herself, she had unknowingly changed the whole school. Her first lesson here wasn't about books, but about bravery, unity, and the power of respect. And that was a story no one would forget.